Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well. And today we're talking about the finale of Game of Thrones Season 8, the entire finale of the entire series, and man oh man, it was a disaster. So I will say this much first off. Let me just get the positive out of the way. The ending episode in and of itself, in isolation of everything else, is not a terrible episode. The problem is, it seems to me, and this is something I said on Twitter earlier, it seems to me that they had the ending planned out. They had the ending all in their head of how things were going to go. And then they thought to themselves, okay, well, how do we get there in just one season? Oh, that's right. Let's just rush a bunch of plot lines, rush a bunch of character arcs, just totally abandon certain character arcs, and then eventually get to the point that we want to get to. And when you do that, though, the episode, though, in isolation, if you just step back for a second and say, well, you know, I didn't absolutely hate the things that happened. It's the fact that there are certain things that led up to those things that eventually happened that were stupid. Because Bran becoming, obviously, we're going to be talking about some spoilers for this episode, so if you don't care about spoilers or don't want to know about spoilers, you might want to look away, but as I said before, honestly, at this point, it really doesn't matter. But Bran getting the throne, that's something that overall could have worked had Bran's character actually gotten more development, had we gotten to know a little bit more about the Three-Eyed Raven, which is so interesting because most of the characters on the show have no idea who the hell he is, and yet all of a sudden now at the War Council, Tyrion says, oh, he became the Three-Eyed Raven, like he knows what it means. And no one in the series has ever seemed to indicate that they know exactly what the hell that actually means. And so, as you can see, there's these inconsistencies, and obviously the way that the character is being portrayed. And I'm not blaming the actor there, it's the director. The directors of the episodes are the ones that tell the actors how they want those characters to present themselves. And to ask that child actor to go, hi, my name is Bran, I will show no emotion, is just stupid. Because it really honestly does not add to the character at all. And so that character becoming the person that takes the throne could have worked, just like almost any character taking the throne could potentially work. But the problem is you don't have a story that actually develops it to the point where you're like, oh, that actually makes sense. And that's exactly what this entire season has been about. I honestly feel they had all that stuff planned in advance. They had all of the ending already in place. And then decided, oh, but we don't want to make sure, we want to make very clear that no one's going to be able to predict this. No one's going to be able to see these things coming. And so what we're going to do is every single episode, we're going to subvert expectations. We're going to take the plot lines and the plot developments that has been going over the past 8 years. And then we're just going to say, oh, yeah, you see, we're following along. And then boom, nope, no, doesn't matter anymore. Oh, and by the way, here's how it actually ends. And so you're left with this position of, okay, well, this is just confusing now because I've spent 8 years of my life dedicating myself to the show, following these characters, falling in love with these characters, really starting to develop relationship with these characters, as many people do in fandoms in general. And then all of a sudden you said none of those relationships mattered, none of those arcs, none of the hours upon hours spent watching the show, watching the characters, seeing as they develop, matter for a damn, all because we wanted to get you to this ending as fast as possible because we wanted to go ahead and go over to Star Wars. If that is the way that you're going to present films, if that's going to be the way that you present your stories going forward, good luck, dude. Seriously, Benioff and Weiss, good luck to you. If you think that fans of Game of Thrones, who are, by the way, most likely also fans of Star Wars, are going to forget about this, are going to say, oh, Benioff and Weiss, that's a different story. Oh, they're going to get a good writer, and oh, it's Lucasfilm, it's Disney. They can't screw it up, right? Well, of course, all of us who are Star Wars fans know they can with Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi, but what do they think is going to happen? Do they think that people are just going to travel with them? That the people are just going to say, oh my gosh, but think about the first 4 seasons and how great work they did when they were adapting that material. And I will say, they did great work adapting material that was not theirs. Adapting George R.R. Martin's great, brilliant work and great, brilliant character development. After those seasons, it started to go downhill, but for at least the first few seasons after it, and I would say through season 7, at least until season 7, they were following it to a point. You know, they were at least staying somewhat consistent with the arcs. They were somewhat staying consistent with basic story elements. And so it wasn't a total cluster. Obviously, they left out certain things. They decided not to go in certain directions. They shoehorned in certain stories and decided to hold back other stories, all for the sake of trying to reach out to their audience rather than actually following a consistent story. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that fan development, fan interaction, and also listening to your fans is important. However, you can't do it to the point where the story gets lost. Great example of this is John Wick. John Wick 3, which is still a fantastic film, go see it, has listened to the fans from the very beginning and has given the fans what they wanted, but they've never sacrificed the story. They've stayed consistent with the characters, they've stayed consistent with what has already been pre-established. Game of Thrones, it seemed like they were trying to listen to some fans and they were trying to be like, oh, look, you see, that relationship happened, or oh, look, you see, you really like this actress playing, for example, Lady Mormont, who's not that big in the books. Oh, you loved her, we're going to give her a bigger role. And so they were listening and taking in the feedback. The problem, though, was that they were pumping up certain characters. They were focusing on certain characters. They were trying to make certain things happen, socially and politically, that weren't actually a part of the books, that weren't actually part of the story. And what it ended up doing was it ended up creating some problems and some issues. At first, those issues were somewhat small, where it's like, okay, it's not good, but you know what? I can at least forgive it. Subjectively, I'm still having a good time. This season, though, the objective reality just becomes so overflooded with just total, utter crap, it's impossible to look past. And as you can see, even USA Today, one of their main headlines is Game of Thrones series finale recap, a disaster ending that fans didn't deserve. And you're right. 8 years of developing this show, 8 years of dedicating time to the show to give us the ending that we got. And not just the last episode, because I do hear some people saying, well, the last episode wasn't bad. It wasn't the worst of the episodes. And I would agree to a point. As I said, if this was the ending in the books, there's definitely a way to which you could get to all of these conclusions. The problem is the show does not actually get us there. The fact that HBO apparently offered Benioff and Weiss more episodes, said, hey, if you need more time, if you need more episodes, you can do more. We can give you 2 more episodes. And that Benioff and Weiss denied that and said, no, we're going to do it in 6, to me puts most of this and more of this on Benioff and Weiss and on HBO. Now, of course, I will put some on HBO because they're the ones that hold the power. They're the ones that can say, hey, we're looking at what you're doing. This really isn't making sense. We really don't want to piss off fans because guess what? We want these fans to come back for our prequels. We want these fans to keep on watching for the Watchmen series and for all the other series that we have. I can only imagine. I seriously wish I could see the live count of how many HBO Go, HBO Now subscriptions have now been canceled because of this show. Because think about it. Why was anyone really watching HBO recently for Game of Thrones? You know, they might have their pockets of other shows that people enjoy watching, but for the most part, Game of Thrones was the reason why anyone actually got an HBO subscription. Now, Game of Thrones is gone. And not only is it gone, but this last 6-episode season has essentially destroyed the other seasons. Because now if you go back to season 1 and you see the character arc of Bran, you think to yourself, oh wait, that's right, he becomes king at the very end and he becomes a really boring character with no personality. You look to see Jaime. You see Jaime get his hand cut off and it starts to change him. He starts to go through this beautiful arc. But then you're like, oh wait, no, that doesn't matter because even after all of the years and all of the time of him developing, of him changing, oh no, at the last minute for no reason whatsoever, he changes his mind and goes back to die with his sister. Why would we care? Cersei, built up as the big bad ever since the very beginning, just dies, because, oh no, the roof fell down, but the roof fell down just enough so that Tyrion could just put away, 3 bricks and find their faces? Because that makes sense, right? You see the entire thing collapse. Here's the best part about all of it, too. You see most of the Red Keep and most of the surrounding areas collapse, and yet now when we go back, there are things that are still standing. The Iron Throne, of course, is still standing because we have to have that cool moment of the dragon destroying it, which I thought, again, was fine. I liked the dragon destroying the throne because, honestly, I think that's something that a lot of us saw coming, was that no one was going to get the actual Iron Throne. Though I will say this much, and I was telling my wife this, I really do wish the Iron Throne had stayed, so that way when they eventually chose Bran, they said, oh, we need to get you a new throne. He can just say, that is all right. I already have a throne. I would have loved to have that line in there, because then at least it would have been funny. And that's the other thing, too. There were some really funny moments. But it wasn't funny because it was well written. It wasn't funny because of character arcs or plot. It was because the actors themselves, you can tell, just have great chemistry with each other and were able to make certain things work. So there were a couple moments, especially when Tyrion is setting up the chairs and everything, where I chuckled. But it had nothing to do with the fact that they wrote it that way. It had everything to do with the fact that, Tyrion Lannister, and that specifically Peter Dinklage that plays him, is awesome, is great. And if I have to say anything, Peter Dinklage freaking owns it in this episode. Even though the lines he's saying at that council when they're choosing the king suck and is just like out of nowhere. Oh, they're listening to a prisoner now. What? Okay, that makes sense. Oh, now they're just going to let someone from the North take over while at the same time letting the North be independent. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Man, but even with all that going on, Peter Dinklage gives a fantastic performance. And that's what I'm going to say. I think the performances, the acting in this season, in all of these seasons, has been spot on. Has been great. It's been the strongest point of the show. But it used to also be in tangent with good writing. First 4 seasons, you had fantastic acting, fantastic writing. Then the writing started to go downhill. Acting still remained strong. The acting has remained strong ever since the very beginning. But it wasn't until this season that Benioff and Weiss were officially exposed. They were exposed for the hacks that they are. Where if they don't have original material, if they don't have material to adapt, they can't write good stories. They can't write good character arcs. And so that's why I really do hope that Disney saw what they just did here. I hope that Disney is listening to the fans. Now, of course, I say that knowing that they don't listen to the fans. But they look to that and they think to themselves, okay, we need to make sure that they have a good, solid writer, because if they don't, then we don't want the same thing happening with Star Wars as what's happening here, because we don't need another Last Jedi. The Last Jedi alone already kind of broke Star Wars enough. We don't need another one of that, and let alone a trilogy of that nonetheless, especially a trilogy that you're going to invest in only to have your, all of your expectations subverted and all your time and money wasted. That's what this all has been. This entire series, and this is where HBO comes in. This is why it is HBO's fault, is because HBO had full control over how these things happen. If Benioff and Weiss were going to say no, but HBO recognized, no, there's more to the story and we need this to be able to move forward, guess what you do? You say, all right, guys, sorry, go off and do your Star Wars. We're going to pick new showrunners who are actually going to end this show correctly. And I'm not saying end it correctly, meaning, that this person gets the throne or this person doesn't die, etc. But no, that they actually were going to take their time with it and say, here's what we've been building to. Here's that logical conclusion. The Night King has been this big bad since the first episode. We're not going to kill him in just one episode. We're not just going to kill him like that. We're going to have an actual epic battle because we can't just, destroy him. The other big bad, Cersei. Oh my God, she has all of these scorpions and she could have destroyed the army altogether. How would they survive? She's never been merciful. Why did she not shoot any of them? That doesn't make any damn sense. Oh no, now she's crying and all of that army is being destroyed in about, 7 minutes? It took 7 minutes for them to destroy the entirety of King's Landing, or rather, destroy the armies of King's Landing before they destroyed all the people of King's Landing. Before, of course, you had, not Cersei, not Sansa, Lord. The names of these characters are so Daenerys. Before you had Daenerys just go off and killed innocent women and children, even though that doesn't actually work with their character. And there's some people trying to say, well, if you go back to this episode, it does. Here's the problem. You didn't have an arc. You didn't have slow burn, now she's getting crazier, now it's starting to develop. Instead, all of it, the entire arc happened in one episode. And that's not consistent with the years and years of things that were even worse. Because people saying, oh, but Missandei got killed and her dragon got killed. Her husband, Drogo, got killed. Her baby died. I'm pretty sure she's had worse things happen and she hasn't killed innocent people. And yet, we're supposed to believe that because her best friend dies, that's going to be the thing? When in reality, if you see what is the last conversation that she has before the battle, oh wait, that's right, her nephew saying, I'm not going to sleep with you anymore. So if you really want to dive deep into it, if you really want to go into the weeds, then what you're saying is that the straw that breaks the camel's back is not the bells, for whatever reason, but no, instead, it's the fact that her nephew wouldn't sleep. So again, this whole season has just been awful, has been a total and utter disaster. The fans recognize that now more than ever before. Gary had over on the Drag had 15,000 people watching him last night because everyone is just pissed. Because anyone that's defending last night's episode, I can agree with you to an extent. I think there were some good things about last night's episode. The problem is everything that came before that did not match to what we got. The ending could have worked, but we didn't get the development that was needed in order for it to work. Instead, we got something that was rushed, something that was all about subverting expectations, and in the end, this is going to be remembered as one of the worst endings to any series of all time, and I'm guaranteeing this right now, this is going to be a show that a lot of people are just going to never watch again. I know I have no desire to ever watch it again, because why would I want to waste any more time knowing how this show ends? Why would I want to invest in these characters where I know nothing comes of them? That their arcs are wasted, that their arcs are thrown away, that their arcs are rushed at the very end and not given proper completion. So yeah, the books might be able to do it right. I'm not much of a reader, so hopefully I'm able to get my hands on some audiobooks, but seriously, HBO, if you think that you're going to get the people from Game of Thrones, like the fans, to come back for your prequel series after this, good luck. And Benioff and Weiss, if you think you're going to have that fan base that you had last season, up until last season from Game of Thrones, the millions upon millions that were loving the stuff that they were doing, if you think that they're going to follow you to Star Wars after this, good luck with that. Look to that petition again. Over 1 million signees. Again, doesn't really mean anything. Nothing's going to change. But I hope that you realize and I hope that you know that people are not happy. And it's not because things didn't happen the way they wanted. It's because things didn't happen in a way that made any sense whatsoever. Anyway, guys, what are y'all's thoughts about this season? I think this season has been awful. I think that this season was a waste of time. The fact that it took 2 years to make this season, and they wasted so many episodes. 2 episodes, stuff happens. 3 now if you count the finale. So much wasted time in these hour-and-a-half episodes. The battles, there were no battles. Seriously. Think about the battle for Winterfell, or the Long Night, as it were. I mean, seriously, you couldn't see half of it. And all that you could see was just a siege. It was just total destruction. It wasn't an actual fight. It wasn't Battle of the Bastards. It wasn't like this, back and forth, awesome hard home. No, instead it was just nonsense. And then let's not even get started about the siege of King's Landing. I mean, God, that thing was a total waste of time. That was a massacre. And again, you could have had that massacre happen in the story, but you gotta, again, get there. You gotta develop. You can't just throw the Golden Company out there. You can't just have these scorpions have pitch perfect accuracy just to kill off a dragon, and then the next episode they have no accuracy whatsoever. It's just, oh my God, it's just so frustrating. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please, if you like it, smash the like button, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe. You're all amazing people. Let me know your thoughts about this season in the comments below. And also, are you going to follow Benioff and Weiss's career? Are you going to actually watch their Star Wars series? Are you going to watch any more Game of Thrones content that HBO might put out? I honestly am very interested to see how many people actually watch that documentary they were pushing. And it is interesting that they only pushed it one time, that there's going to be a documentary next week about the behind the scenes of Game of Thrones. To be honest, I think that the numbers for that are going to be so abysmal because I think that so many people are either canceling or will be canceling their HBO's account. Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.